I got to laugh, too. I hear people saying, well, how patient should the Giants be? Like the Giants have a choice. How patient should the Giants be? The Giants, as we've chronicled many times here, are in the absolute worst possible position you could be in, where it's year 4, they've got to win, they don't have a quarterback, they've got to get a quarterback, and let me get this straight. Now the Giants are going to start writing the rules as to when these few quarterbacks who are even remotely attractive, when they actually make their decision. It doesn't work that way. Aaron Rodgers can stroll the beach for the next month, and if the Giants really want him, which I believe that they do, whether that's the right move or the wrong move, that's a different discussion, but I believe that they want him because they missed out on Stafford. They're going to have to wait till he takes off the flip-flops and takes off the sunglasses and makes his decision. They got no choice but to wait.
And I was saying this a little bit yesterday when you were out, when I was in with Boomer, you were doing the Johnny's game.
Booms.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
Happy
a fun
Booms.
show to do.
It was good.
Booms. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that there was a difference.
No, there's usually not. I love
Boomer was good. But we talked about it a little bit yesterday where people, and Schefter specifically, did you see all that from yesterday?
Yes.
Maybe you didn't have a chance to chime in on that.
I saw it.
So Schefter, Roger got to make a decision. Dude, it's...
Yeah, whatever. Schefter, make a decision.
And it's not... Yeah, exactly. Like, who is Adam Schefter or anybody else? Now, selfishly, like, would I want the Rodgers to make a decision so it could be resolved and we can move on and discuss whatever decision he made? He's not here, he's here. Sure, but in reality, it's a big decision for Rodgers. You can't just minimize it because it's not you. So I respect that he's going to take his time and look at his options and consider everything. I don't think it's about finances, but I don't know. Some reports say that. Also, some reports were saying that it was going to be done yesterday or 2 days ago, and it wasn't. Now some reports say it's going to be a couple of weeks, maybe a few weeks. So who knows with Rodgers here. Here's where I would say that the Giants do have the option to move on without him. Like, they're allowing Rodgers to hold all the cards. It may not be apples to apples with the way that the Jets did it, but that's how the Jets got themselves in trouble, where they were basically bending over backwards to accommodate Aaron Rodgers and get him in here, this or that. Yeah, sure, Mr. Rodgers, we need you, whatever you want. You want Lazard? Sure. You want Randall Cobb? Sure. We'll do this, we'll let lineman this, lineman that, whatever they need. And the Giants, maybe not to that extent, also in a similar spot because they aren't good, because they've botched the quarterback situation for years, are also in the position where they have Rodgers dictating the terms of the conversation here, whether it mean the timetable or whatever. And that to me is the bottom line, because that's not a position you want to be in, a powerless position.
That's right. I think that's a very good description. But I think the Giants are powerless now. I really do. Now they think that they can, they might think that they have a little bit of power, but I don't know where that power resides. Now, Russell Wilson was in the Browns building, walked out without a contract, right? Going to meet with the Giants. Now you're hearing there's one report that the Giants could actually go after Wilson and Joe Flacco if they decide not to have. I mean, think about the names we're throwing around here, guys. My good God almighty. I mean, it's really depressing here. Even though I think Rodgers by far is the best option, I really don't think Russell Wilson will be a great fit, and I don't think Flacco's the answer either. And I'm not even necessarily sure that Rodgers is the answer for where this team is. But if the Giants try to speed up his decision-making process, like if they try based out of their own, hey, even if they do it respectfully, hey, Aaron, we've got to do this, we want to line this up, we want to look at free agency, we wrap that up, the draft, blah, blah, blah. Like, what do they have in their corner that they can unleash that can actually get him to speed things up? There's nothing.
Right, but to me, it all leads to the same road. With or without Rodgers, lipstick on a pig, whatever they say. Like, with or without Rodgers, the Giants are going to be the same spot. And that spot, or Wilson or Flacco, is going to lead to the quarterback that they draft. I don't see, now again, I could be wrong, no sources, just using common sense here, but the fact that they're clearly looking for a veteran quarterback, and when you could hear the name Joe Flacco being thrown out there.
Joe Flacco still being thrown around.
Okay, so let's just play it out. Let's say Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh, or I guess Rodgers goes to Minnesota, who knows? And by the way, BT, there was conflicting thought on that too. Hoff told us the other day that the Vikings said that they were going to name McCarthy the starter, but then Diana Rossini reported the night after that, like, Rodgers, I guess, was still in play for Minnesota.
Well, no
What is it?
disrespect to our guy Huff, but who's the reporter?
Well, did Huff get that wrong or no?
I don't know if he
you
did.
saw that somewhere.
I saw that too, by the way. It wasn't just Huff. I saw
okay.
this one. Who the heck knows?
So just let's use common sense then. If McCarthy is named the starter by Minnesota, if that is accurate, Rodgers is not going to Minnesota. Like, that is not even an option.
Unless, I was going to say if he's named the starter, that means he's healthy enough to do it. So I was going to say the only way that he would go to Minnesota is if McCarthy's not the starter or if he's not fully healthy yet.
Exactly.
All right, go ahead. So Minnesota.
Let's just take Minnesota off the table. Put Rodgers in Pittsburgh and say Wilson goes somewhere else.
But where else is somewhere else? That's
Tennessee. Who knows? Whatever.
Right, yeah, Tennessee.
Maybe
true.
he doesn't want to go to the Giants, or you want to put Rodgers with Minnesota for the sake of the conversation.
Got it.
Because it's just a hypothetical. Rodgers goes to Minnesota. Wilson goes back to Pittsburgh. Giants are left with Joe Flacco. Like, there's no scenario in the world that can have the Giants going into the season with Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback without one of the top quarterbacks in the draft. So for me, it all leads to the same road, whether it's Flacco, Russell Wilson, or even the great Aaron Rodgers. It is going to mean the Giants are going to have one of the top quarterbacks. If it's not Cam Ward, maybe it's Sanders. If it's not Sanders, maybe it's I don't know who it's going to be or when they're going to take that quarterback. But you have to do the math here and think that there's no way one of these three guys, specifically Wilson and Flacco, but one of these three, including Rodgers in that three, is going to be it for the Giants as far as quarterback goes. It all leads to the same road, and that's the most important part of this entire puzzle, the young quarterback.
Could you imagine, I mentioned before, and I agree with that, by the way, but can you imagine a situation where it was Wilson, Flacco, and DeVito? And they don't get a quarterback.
That would be a disaster.
Yeah, if that ever happened, and I'm Mara, I would literally knock down their doors with my foot. Remember the old Slim Jim commercial, with Macho Man kicking down doors? I would take their swipe card and I would throw them out the window right into their car. Get out.
I mean, come on.
Unacceptable. And that's not going to happen. I'm saying that just to mess around.
Do we think that there is any scenario?
Well, listen, I do think that there is a scenario where Tennessee takes Cam Ward or somebody else jumps to number one and maybe beats the Giants. So maybe Cam Ward's off the table.
And they don't like Sanders.
And they don't love Sanders enough to justify taking him at 3.
Not taking Dart with 3.
And then maybe somebody else leapfrogs them. They're playing that game where we're like, all right, well, maybe we move down from 3 and we get to here and we think we can get Jackson Dart, but we miscalculate and the Raiders or, I don't know, somebody else just jumps up name a team that might need a quarterback, and that they are left without one of the 3 quarterbacks. Like, you could, I wouldn't say it's a very high percentage, but I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't put it at 0%, where they've got a fairly undesirable veteran like a Wilson or a Flacco. I'll put Rodgers in a separate category because at least he's interesting. You know what I mean? Like Wilson, Flacco, DeVito, and not one of the 3 top quarterbacks. I don't think that that's very possible, but it's not implausible because other teams are trying to do the same thing.
Right, and if that does happen, I don't know how you could expect anything other than disaster. For me, the one way potentially out is the hope of the next quarterback. Now, to your point, BT, this is a big key. If they don't love one of these young quarterbacks, and signs have been so far, the pursuit of Stafford, number 1, they don't love one of these young quarterbacks. Maybe they believe that they can win with a Rodgers, Wilson, or Flacco, win more so than they did with Daniel Jones, show some building blocks, maybe better defense this year. Dable's offense looks good with a competent quarterback, the way that they looked at times with Drew Lock last year, as he said.
That is a dangerous game to play, gentlemen.
Now, I think it will blow up in their face, but I'm saying if they're thinking that,
good luck, boys.
BT and Sal, the fan, our friends at Town Fair Tire, remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Joey's in Poughkeepsie. What's up, Joey?
What's happening, Joe?
Well, how are you guys doing, man?
Good.
I have a question. BT, you were saying that you don't think the Giants are in a power position right now, but with the 3rd overall pick, don't you think they are, so they don't have to go after Rodgers?
Oh, they're only in a power position pertaining to the draft, and it's a good question, if they really, really, really like Shedeur Sanders. Because think about this. If they love Cam, the only way they're going to get Cam is to move mountains to move up a couple of slots to get him. So that's not a power position. That doesn't mean that you can't get the guy, but it's not an absolute power strength position. It's just not, because you've got to give up equity to get him. If you love Sanders and he's sitting there at 3, you're in great shape. But if they love Sanders, why are they chasing all these other quarterbacks? That's what we're piecing together here.
Yeah.
You know
They
what I
would've been
mean?
in a better position if they kept the first overall pick and didn't win them games at the end of the year.
Well, we always get back to that, but now the tanking. You can't fault the players. I know there's a million teams that could say the same thing. I get it. We're past that point. They did win the game. They've got the third pick.
We don't want to talk about tanking on this show. Call Tiki, Evan and Tiki in the afternoon.
Yeah,
They'll
Tiki
talk about
loves
tanking.
those conversations.
Look,
Honestly,
we can't
he
go
loves
back
them.
there. No, but the Giants are in a powerless position. And that's my point. Not only forget the draft. A, they're not in the position of power in the draft because they have the third pick, not the first pick. B, they don't have a quarterback. They desperately need a quarterback. The whole world knows it. They wanted Stafford. They did all they could to get him. He didn't want them. And now they're bending over backwards and awaiting word on Aaron Rodgers. That's not a spot you want to be in. I just gave you the example. We lived through it in New York. The Jets weren't in a powerful position. They were in a powerless position. They traded for Rodgers, gave up a boatload to get him, paid him a ton of money, let him call all the shots. Look how it worked out. I'm not knocking Rodgers. I love Rodgers. I don't think this is the right fit, and it's certainly not a position you want to be in as a franchise to have to be powerless and bend over backwards for Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career.
I hear you. And by the way, let me tell everybody what a position of power actually looks like. Look at the Patriots. And lesser extent, because he's got that second contract and he hasn't been what we thought he would be. Look, but he's still obviously talented. Look at the Jaguars. So, but really, focus on the Patriots. They're in a prime spot. They've got, the fifth overall pick?
Right.
And they've got
fourth, right?
Is it fourth or
yeah,
fifth?
Fourth,
Are they fourth? Okay. I get that. Then I guess the Jaguars,
are five. Yeah.
There you go. So therefore, they've got their quarterback of the future, and a lot of other teams need their quarterback. That's what a position of power. Look, that's the leverage right there, where your phone's ringing off the hook,
right,
and you are in a very good spot to trade out, to do whatever you want, because you know that you have, at least on the most basic level, and I think a few steps beyond that, but I'm not saying he's an all-pro, but I think he's beyond just interesting. I think Drake May is good. I think they nailed the Drake May pick. Time will tell. They've got their quarterback. They've got the fourth pick. Phone's ringing. That's power.
I'll give you another one. The Vikings are in a powerful position when it comes to Aaron Rodgers because they don't need him. They got their guy, J.J. McCarthy. They won last year with Sam Darnold. They're going to be a good team regardless. Pittsburgh, less powerful, but even without Aaron Rodgers, what's the worst-case scenario for them? They bring back Russell Wilson. Not a great idea, but they still have a good team around. They have a better team with DK Metcalf coming in.
Yeah.
Still have a good head coach. Now, again, they're awaiting Aaron Rodgers because they know, or at least hope, that he could be the difference to get that team over the hump potentially.
Yep.
But they're certainly in a more powerful position than the Giants. The Giants, it's like they're begging. They need Aaron Rodgers to have some kind of hope here.
Well, think of it. That's why I said to start the show. And listen, I don't mean to make this seem like the Giants actually have this thought process right now, but I'm talking really to the people who call up the station and who think that the Giants, need to flex on Rodgers. Flex on what?
Yeah.
There's nothing to flex on. They are basically waiting by the altar, hoping that he says, all right, I'll marry you for a year. That's their position.
Yeah, they can't flex. Richard is in Stratford, Connecticut. What's up, Richard?
Gentlemen, I want to tell you how much I always enjoy your show.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Rich.
Listen, I don't know. You guys keep talking about Rodgers and everything else. I don't know why they don't go after somebody's second-string quarterback, somebody who can teach a dart if you get him in the second round, let's say. I mean, Kansas City, I can't remember the guy's name, but Kansas City's backup has been a starting quarterback, and he's only 31 years old. I don't understand.
Well, it's not Chad Henne, is it?
No, Henne's out. Yeah, and he's older than that.
Yeah.
Well, Rich, it's not a bad point.
Wentz? Was it Wentz last year?
Was it Carson? I think that you can do that, Richard. The problem is I don't think it's not very appealing to the men who are trying to save their job. That's the problem. And this is where we are. If this was a conventional rebuild or reboot or recalibration or restructure, whatever you want to use, redo, then I think it will be a different blueprint. But because the Giants, the gentlemen making the decisions, we know who they are. They know that they've got to win, and they also know they've got to deliver somebody that can play quarterback at some point for the future. Here's where we are.
And for me, it's got to be which is, by the way, just to finish your point, is a horrible situation to be in.
I think it's the worst that you could be in.
And we've talked about that dating back to in-season last year. So here we are, and we're actually watching it play out of how undesirable this position is. For me, it comes down to two things. Are you in a spot as a franchise to sign a veteran quarterback and try to win some games and be a competitive football team, or are you in a spot where, or by the way, you could go out there and just get a franchise quarterback somewhere else and try to build your team that way? Sure. Or are you in a spot where you need to draft and develop a young quarterback? The Giants are in between because they're going into year 4 with this regime. They don't have a franchise quarterback. They're picking 3rd overall, and they're trying to win now. It's not a good spot. Not to mention, none of the options, they tried. I give them credit for trying for Matthew Stafford.
Me too, no question.
He was the best option to kind of do both. Okay.
He was their life preserver. He really was.
And it shows you how impossible these guys are to find. He wasn't realistic. He wasn't available. He was going to stay with the Rams. He did so. End of story. Now they are screwed. To me, the best way out is not Aaron Rodgers, a stopgap with question marks at his age, coming off the injuries and all that stuff after failed time with the Jets. It's the hope of drafting the quarterback that they identified to be the best one and develop him. That is the Giants' path this season. It should have been the one last season. They incorrectly went about it. They paid for it, and now they're even in a worse spot this year, hanging on by a thread.
Oh, by a thread. Think about this. Not only do you need a quarterback, there's no home run options. This is a weak quarterback draft. And to get, it's actually highly possible that to get one of the fairly undesirable quarterbacks, you're going to have to trade up to get him.
Right.
It's not even like you could get him at 3 necessarily.
Right. Nobody's falling to you at 3 like it was a year ago where you could say, all right, well, we're not going to get Jaden Daniels, but we can take Drake May. That's not the case this year. BT and Sal on the Fan. More your calls when we come back. 888-808-1019.
All right, Devil fan.